Good afternoon and welcome to KVEC's Autism Hour with Ms. Kimberly Howard from the Kentucky Autism Training Center. Thanks everyone for attending and enjoy the evening.
So, hi, I am Kim Howard. I'm going to leave my camera on while I do this and then turn it off because looking at myself is not super fun. So, I work for Kentucky Autism Training Center. Thank you for joining us. We're going to talk about the Kentucky guidance, the autism guidance document today is the plan. I was a former classroom teacher. I taught special education, both moderate and severe disabilities, as well as learning and behavior disorder. The last few years that I was in the classroom, I taught a structured classroom, which was our version of an autism unit. So that's my background. Look away for a second and I'm going to share my screen so the screen will start moving around on you. So this is an introduction to Kentucky Department of Education Autism Guidance document. They updated it and it kind of rolled out towards, I want to say early summer. It rolled back out. Came about I'm thinking around 2017, 2018, I think, and that's my best guess about when the original autism guidance document came out. It's a great resource. The nice thing about the document is that it is full, the new version is full of hyperlinks that when you click on them, they take you to many, many resources that I think as educators, they are worth knowing about. So we're going to briefly walk through this and I want you to spend some time getting familiar with it so you can take it back, share it with your friends. Okay, so this is the Kentucky Department of Education guidance, the autism guidance document. This is what your first page should look like. If you've managed to get that downloaded, if you can't now, take the time and do it later. I have found it to be super helpful. This is their lovely table of contents. And I put this on here because I want you to see the wealth of information. It goes all the way from what is autism, the special education process in general. It has information about research-based interventions. It talks about how do we do RTI during the special education referral process. And then it talks about what assessments might be appropriate for students to determine autism eligibility. That is a frequently asked question that I get from educators, which is very appropriate. Hey, we're completing an evaluation for student X. We are pretty certain that autism is the appropriate category. What do I need to make sure that what testing do I need to be providing for them? It can vary, right? And there is some variability in that, and it does give you some nice options in there. It also includes some forms and things in there that you can actually print off and use. So I found it really helpful. And their appendix, it's also very helpful. And we'll walk through just a little bit of this. This won't take a super long time or anything like that. We're not going to go through every single page. I'm just going to hit some of the highlights. And then I'm going to suggest that you print this out, or if you're not a print person, download this to your computer. The downloaded version is nice because a lot of it is hyperlinked. So if you click on certain parts of it, it's going to take you out to a lot of different web pages that has very much helpful information. So I want teachers and I want school districts to know this is out there. And I was so excited. I have been asking them to update this for the last few years. So this is their introduction. And yeah, I was right. So this started out in 2017. And there were many people that were involved in that as a part of developing this. It's a broad work group, including some KVEC employees at that time, I believe. So this document is written specifically for children with autism or suspected autism between the ages of 3 to 21, school age, right? And it was revised. They updated the research. Some of the evidence-based practices had changed. Some of our interventions have changed since 2017, and some of the requirements for special educations may have been slightly different. And we know that we've seen a significant increase over the last several years in Kentucky and across America for students with autism. So this specifically says that nationally, the percent of students with disabilities identify with autism increased from 4.9% overall to 10.51%. So almost doubled in from 2008 to 2018 time period. So about a 10-year window there. So there was increased prevalence for students in public school that were diagnosed with autism. And I know I'm in many of your school districts. I have been in, or I am currently in many of your school districts, and I know that is definitely the case. We are seeing a high rate of students with autism, and we want to do a good job. We want to be doing what's appropriate. We want to be using those evidence-based practices. So this is a great document to take back and have a conversation. If you have co-teachers or co-workers, or if you are a director of special ed, this is a great document to take back and share out with your teachers. So just know that. It does a nice job of defining what is autism. So autism is a developmental disability significantly affecting verbal and nonverbal communication and social interaction. Generally, there's some evidence before the age of 3. And for school purposes, it has to adversely affect the child's educational performance. That's one of the other questions that we get asked a lot. And probably we all may have experienced families that come in and their child has a medical diagnosis. How do we cross over and then decide if that's an appropriate, maybe they also need the school diagnosis. And sometimes maybe they don't. I've seen both cases, and I'm sure you all may have seen that as well. So know those things. It does do a nice job of that. It does a nice job of looking at signs and symptoms. What are the signs and symptoms of ASD? So if you click on that, it's going to take you out to Center for Disease Control. I like that this, they take you to the Act Early and some of those types of places, which provides a lot of resources. And if you click on that signs and symptoms of ASD, it also gives you all of the statistics that are a frequently asked question. So it tells you that we know for students with autism, it can look very different, right? Every child with autism, if you know one child with autism, you know one child with autism. Autism, I think it's a harder to diagnose disability because it's a spectrum disorder. So we see kids all across the range. We see children that are very, very verbal. They have lots of words and they're out there in that regular education classroom all day, very appropriately. They might be a little bit socially awkward. They might have some issues like anxiety. They might have some issues with sensory. It can look like that all the way to, we might see students on a different end of the spectrum that they don't have very many words. Their ability to speak has been affected. They are our students that sometimes engage in toe walking or may engage in things, our classic symptoms of autism, which would be hand flapping, tippy toe walking, some of those type of characteristics. And it's a range of symptoms and needs. So this document does a pretty nice job of helping you kind of look for some of those red flags for autism. It also goes into and discusses research-based interventions. That is one of the main goals of the program that I run now, is to bridge the gap between research and classroom practice. When I was a classroom teacher, even when I was a fully graduated, complete with all of the certification classroom teacher, no one had taught me very much about students with autism. And in that time, I came in kind of on the cusp of right before the significant increase. So a part of this guidance document, which if you have it, if you have that, you are going to find that around page 4. If you want to scroll to that in your autism guidance document, it goes through what are those research-based interventions, and it helps you kind of, it also gives you access to hyperlink for the iris modules. Those are a very nice additional webinar that you can access freely at any time. If you have new staff or you have people that are new to the world of special ed or autism, this can be a great place to get started. It has a really good, I would kind of say Autism 101 type module that you can watch on your own, and it does a really nice job of that. The other thing that I want you guys to know about is this. One of the other things that this document provides is a 4-step problem-solving model. I can't say that right today. So that's in Appendix C, but it's kind of mentioned at this point in the document. The appendices of this document is very helpful. It has a lot of resources that you can photocopy and use right away. So the 4-step problem-solving model is, what is the problem? Number 1, let's identify what is our problem today. Number 2, let's look at why is this problem happening? When is it happening? Where is it happening? Why is it happening? Who is it happening with? It kind of takes you through all of the pieces that you might look at around the problem. And then number 3 is, what can we do about this? What intervention is appropriate for the classroom? What intervention is appropriate, age appropriate, developmentally appropriate for the student? And then it takes us to our feedback loop, which is this intervention effective? Which is number 4. Is this intervention effective? If the intervention is effective, awesome, keep using it. If not, let's go back and reanalyze the problem. I will say we use this problem-solving model for our autism problem-solving teams when we have worked through some of those. And probably a lot of us are using this already, but the KDE document has some additional resources that you can use related to it. So flip and look in that appendix C. It is quite useful, and that would be on it's all the way to the end, page 44 of your autism guidance document, including some of it that it does have are problem-solving steps, complete with check boxes for what was completed, what were your comments. So it has pieces that you could use to develop your IEP or to develop your problem-solving goals for your students. So just know those are in there. I did find those to be very helpful, and I have districts that have used those. Oh, for some reason it won't flip. There we go. The other thing that this has is your autism eligibility determination guided questions. Hold on one second and I'll tell you what page those are. It's probably around page 16 is going to, I guess. 1 second. Yeah, starting around page 16 under eligibility, you are going to find these eligibility determination guide questions. So it has specific criterion listed, and you are literally just going down and you're saying yes or no, and then providing evidence as appropriate. You get to decide how much evidence that you would provide or not provide. And I want to say always when you are completing things like eligibility, looking at autism eligibility, or you're working within IEPs, always refer to your district procedures. Figure out how this meshes with your county's district procedures. That's always a good place to look at and make sure they're meshing, and make sure that you're on the right track. But these are some of the criterion for the student has a developmental disability and generally evident before age 3 is there a total delay or lack of expressive language? Are we seeing things like hyper focus on one topic? So they get stuck on one topic of speech, or it could be a special interest. I've worked with students that their special interest was they like spinning things. They could spin things all day long, right? They were able to spin things. That was their hyper focus. And I've worked with students that their hyper focus was outer space. They knew all about the planets. I met a gentleman yesterday whose tendency to focus on one topic. He wanted to know everyone's birthday, and he was really focused on what your birthday was and what year you were born. It was one of the first things that he asked me. I just met him, and his first question was, when is your birthday? And I told him the day, but he wasn't satisfied with it. He wanted to know the entire thing. And right before I left, he told me what my birthday was, and I'm pretty sure maybe he might remember it forever now that he has heard me say it that one time. So those eligibility determination guiding questions they're helpful, especially when you're first starting. Some of the other things that you're going to find for B is this affecting social interaction? The guiding questions that they're kind of looking at is there a failure to develop peer relationships similar to their same age peers? Do they have social emotional reciprocity? So that's kind of the back and forth piece of shared experiences. Maybe they lack a range of emotions. Kids that are laughing when they're really upset, maybe they laugh at everything, and they don't have that range of emotions that includes crying. I've ran into that this week. Is there varied or spontaneous make-believe? Can you pretend play? I met a student last year. I was in a younger classroom, and the teacher picked up a block and said, all right, everyone, let's pretend that this block is my phone, and I'm going to call, I want to say she was calling a character in a story that they had just read. And a student became very upset and said, wait, that's not a phone, that's a block. That is a block, and that is not a phone. They did not have the skill of make-believe play. It could be things like restricted patterns of interest. My little guy that was spinning things all the time, it interferes with his ability to make friends or interact with others, because that's the one thing that can affect that. How do you interact with others? Sometimes it can be difficult to interact with others if you are so absorbed into your restricted interest. Lots of different options and things that you can look at there. So Appendix C is the 4-step problem-solving process checklist. And that's part of what we've just been talking about. So this is one of the things that you're going to see in there is this. This was the page that I was talking about that has the option to write in your own notes. So problem identification, what steps have you completed? What are your comments? So clarifying your value and making a commitment to promoting value behavior. State the problem behavior in measurable terms. What is your baseline for a behavior of concern? Conduct a discrepancy analysis. So are we seeing this? Are we not? Analyze your data to determine the function of problem behavior. So this is kind of taking you through some of the steps that might be geared towards developing functional behavior analysis, or maybe you're using this in other manners for your setting. So a lot of different options, a lot of resources that you should know about are in there. The evidence-based practice page I thought was pretty helpful. This on your table of contents, evidence-based practice page starts around page 20, so about halfway through the document. Those hyperlink takes you to a lot of different resources. Now that evidence-based practice webpage takes you to the Department of Education's tools and resources. That has a wide variety. And I'm going to help you narrow down some specifically for autism. And they do as well. They have progress monitoring resources, and they offer up these 2 websites, which are Autism Focused Intervention and Resource Modules, or AFFIRM. That is free. And it also, I believe they also offer up Autism Internet Modules, which is also free. Both of those have many, many additional short to longer, 1 to 2 hour, 1 to 3 hour webinars that you can watch on your own time, that are wonderful to share with families. They have ones that are geared from toddler age all the way into, I believe, high school and adulthood. So a wide age range. They also have ones that are geared towards specifically school. So teaching staff, classroom assistant staff. They have some that are geared for parents. So if you have parents out there that are seeking resources and want to learn more, then this can be a great free resource. You can watch them from your home, or if you don't have internet, I have families that watch these at the local library. Good resources worth knowing about and knowing that they're out there. So I shared this document. So it's its own one-page document. This is supplemental. This is not in the autism guidance document. But I shared this with you because this is the evidence-based practices from the National Professional Development Standards with Autism Spectrum Disorder. And I'm messing that up as I say it. But this is their version of all of these are specific for kids with autism. And I really like this, and I think it's worth you having, because what it does do is as I'm looking at my screen on my left side, column going down, it says antecedent-based intervention, going all the way down to visual supports. Those are the list of evidence-based practices that research tells us are effective for students with autism. I love that. When I first came into the field of education, people didn't know what to do for students with autism. That was kind of the start of some of the major increase, and we were at a loss on how to proceed, how to be supportive. People were taking their best educated guess. And you don't have to. If you have a student that has autism or suspected autism, you need to print this out. And I'm going to tell you how you use it. You need to print this out. The nice thing about this is across the top, it has your domains. So it starts with academic, or in quotation marks, pre-academic, if you are talking about birth to 5, going all the way across the top to vocational. And you're going to notice the filled colored squares. It has things for mental health. It has things for play, school readiness, cognitive skills. It has a lot for communication and behavior. And you'll notice that some of them, like self-determination and vocational skill, have less. Mental health has less. Those are newly added in the last cycle of evidence-based practices. So anything that is colored on my screen, it shows up yellow, and it's the first column of each little individual box. That means that is an evidence-based practice effective for ages birth to 5. So if I have birth to 5 years old, then I'm going to look for the yellow color. If I work with, say, school age, ages 6 to 14, that is in the pretty blue, which is kind of the middle column. And if I'm a teacher of high school, those are in green, which is ages 15 to 22. Now, you'll notice as they get older, that teenage age, there are a little bit less evidence-based practices supportive. But what I tell people is, if that was effective at age 14, then we know that it will probably still be effective at age 15. The research money and funding tends to go towards younger children, unfortunately to say. So just know that. I always tell people, if it's on this page, then there's possibly it makes sense to try to use it, to try to utilize this evidence-based practice. So how would I use this? This is a lot of information, lots of pretty color, lots of wording. One of the ways that I used this when I was in the classroom was when I was writing my students' IEPs, or if I was trying to problem solve. I worked with a lot of students that had behavioral difficulties. So I would go to behavior, which is the third category boxes over, and I would look at the age of my student, and I'm going to say they were in the blue, that 6 to 14 age range. And I would say, all right, Johnny, we need to support his behavior. What effective behavior evidence-based practice can I come up with? Well, almost every one of those, with the exception of 2, have shown to be evidence-based practices for supporting behavior. So now I'm not going to use all of them. That would be overwhelming and be too much. I'm going to think about what is effective for Johnny, what's his personality, what has been successful in the past, what has not been successful in the past, what's doable for my classroom right now, what can I afford? I'm not going to say I'm going to use an expensive AAC device if my district can't afford that currently, right? I have to make sure I have the funding and seek those sources out. Maybe I'm going more low tech than high tech. I don't know. That's going to vary from setting to setting. Another way that I have used this is I support a lot of students we're working on school readiness. School readiness is way across the page. It's almost, I think it's the fourth column from the right. School readiness, if I was working on school readiness for a birth to 5-year-old, which is the yellow range, I'm going to think about antecedent-based interventions. That is a great strategy. This particular document comes from the Affirm website. A part of it comes from that Affirm website, and you can find out more information about all of these evidence-based practices on that website. So we are definitely not talking about all of them today, but just as a supplement to the autism guidance document, resources. So this is the direct website to the Affirm modules. And I'm going to tell you my trick. I just type in Affirm autism modules, and it will show up. The second one is autism internet modules. That is also something that is recommended. Both of these are free. So other things to know about, these are additional pages that you're going to find in that appendices. So additional problem solving steps. So identify evidence-based practices that are connected to the function and maintaining factors of the behavior. So what is causing this behavior? What are the evidence-based practices that might be effective? So you can utilize that chart and help fill this out, basically, to help you develop your intervention plan. And this takes you through developing an intervention plan all the way to determining the desired outcome behavior. So what replacement behavior are we putting in? So I think this is a good place to start for some of our students that need this level of support. These are the additional resources. This is worth knowing about, and all of these are blue, which means they are hyperlinked. If you have the online version of this, you can click on these and go out there. So, or Organizations for Autism Research offers many, many free resources out to districts. They have printables. They have a lot of different options that you can take and utilize. The secrets model. The secrets model is an additional currently in the research. They have some really good information and are worth taking a look at. Teach Autism program. I can never say enough good things about Teach. A wealth of information. They offer free things like webinars and additional resources that you can access. The Ziggurat group was big for many, many years, and I still see it used out in a lot of different school districts. It just depends on what your school district decides to go with. They offer some good ways to do autism assessments and some options for program planning. Other things that you're going to find are your Affirm modules, your autism internet modules. You're going to find evidence-based practices in the treatment of challenging behavior. So there's some specific links for challenging behaviors. And then there's some specific links that give you the working definitions for those evidence-based practice. So if you were looking at some of those and you're like, I'm not sure exactly what that means. Well, here you go. You can look at that and kind of look up and figure out what they mean. They have the link to the IRIS model. They have the Kentucky Peer Support Network project. That's worth knowing about. The Kentucky Peer Support Network project does a nice job of helping to develop friendships. If you have students that struggle with making friends, they are worth knowing about. They have the Autism Society of America. They have our website, which is the Kentucky Autism Training Center, and they have the Kentucky Advisory Council on Autism. If you've never heard of the Kentucky Advisory Council on Autism, they meet on a regular basis and help make decisions for persons that are autistic across the state of Kentucky. It's broken up into age group categories all the way from birth, I think, into adulthood, but definitely through school age. They have a lot of interesting information. So it's definitely something you want to check out. when you have a little bit of time. All right. That's kind of a quick and dirty version of that. That is the autism guidance document. Really, you need to spend some time just clicking through that and deciding what pieces are helpful and effective for you. It's a great resource that it's where school districts knowing that it's out there. And I am Kim Howard. You'll find this on the Kentucky Department of Education website. It's out there for everyone. It's open access for anyone that would like to use it. It's a great resource. When I was in the classroom and when I was as a district consultant, I found it to be immensely helpful. And it does a really nice job of walking you through the whole special education process for a student with autism, or potentially, possibly a student who will go on to be diagnosed with autism for school purposes. So nice resource. Good to know that it's out there. It's totally free. And this version is full of hyperlinks that takes you out to wonderful resources, which I really liked. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Kim, for your presentation. And again, thanks, folks, for joining us today. Appreciate you being here. And until next time, be safe, be kind, be exceptional. Thank you.